okay? It's okay, not too loud? Okay. Okay, we start. It's hard to start with good morning when we have 101 hostages in Gaza. So we welcome everyone who came here to hear the voice of hostage aid and the families about this subject. Hostage in Gaza already 412 days. I would like to welcome Nizar Zaka. Nizar is the founder, president, and CEO of Hostage Aid Worldwide here in DC. And they took upon themselves to take care of hostages all around the world, including, of course, the hostages in Gaza. Nizar was he was a hostage himself in Tehran from 2015 to 2019 and was released by Trump administration to 2019. Nizar, please.
Thank you, Einat. Thank you, everybody. As a former hostage who was kidnapped and held in Iran for nearly 4 years, I deeply understand what it means to have your freedom stripped away. Living in captivity and enduring solitary confinement, I held on to the hope that the world had not forgotten me, that one day I would be reunited with my loved ones. After 1,362 days of fear, frustration, anger, hope, and despair, I regained my freedom on June 11, 2019, during the Trump administration. It took courageous and strong leadership to bring me home, and I will always be thankful for the unwavering commitment that made my return possible. Today, as President of Hostage Aid Worldwide, an organization of former hostages dedicated to support and advocate for hostages across the globe, regardless of nationality, race, or religion, I am deeply pained to see 101 hostages still held in Gaza. This is not a regional issue. It's probably the largest hostage crisis in recent history, a global humanitarian crisis that demands our collective attention. Hostage-taking is an act of terrorism that threatens peace and security worldwide. It is a challenge we must confront together. Yet, I find hope in this moment. I believe we are entering an era of possibility and expectation for the hostages and their families. My own experience gives me confidence that their plight is a genuine concern and priority for President-elect Trump, whose leadership has already proven effective in addressing such crises. I believe he will do everything within his power to bring the hostages home safely. In 1979, the United States successfully secured the return of 59 hostages from Iran, including my dear friend and colleague Barry Rosen. While the current situations involve even more lives at stake, I am confident that if anyone can achieve their freedom, it is President-elect Trump. This is a time for decisive action and compassionate resolve. I look forward to witnessing this promise of hope transform into the gift of freedom for those still waiting to come home. Thank you, everyone, and I hope this will be our last press conference before the freedom of everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Nizar. Barry Rosen, one of the founders of Hostage Aid, was taken as hostage in 1979 as part of the diplomats who was working in the American embassy in Tehran during the revolution time by the regime. Barry Rosen was released in a very famous Reagan moment in 20 of January 1981. Barry Rosen cannot join us with his present, but thanks to technology, he can say what he have, his statement by the phone. So let's hear him now.
On November 4th, 1979, by Ayatollah Khomeini's shock troops, who climbed over the gates of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. 51 members of the embassy and I were held for 444 days of unspeakable terror and pain, which is now known as the Iran hostage crisis. I was the U.S. press attaché at the embassy, and my first expectation was that there'd be no possibility of continuing diplomatic ties with a new provisional revolutionary government, and that I would be given 24 hours to leave the country, officially ending any relationship with Iran. But Ayatollah Khomeini and his terrorists had other plans. He, along with his cohorts of terrorists who controlled our ever-waking minute, now would negotiate our release until the Shah of Iran, who was in exile, was brought to trial for his crimes against the Iranian people. So for the next 14 and a half months, we became the pawns of an interminable negotiating process between the U.S. and Iran. I won't go into the blow-by-blow actions of my captivity, but my perverse odyssey was one of surviving solitary confinement, imprisonment in the most notorious prison in Iran, tied hand and foot for days, force-fed scraps of food, threatened with mock executions, desolate stretches of isolation, transported from one part of the plateau to another part so that American intelligence would never know where we were at one time, and longing for our loved ones with inescapable hope, which became an interminable time of outrageous agony. With the inauguration of Ronald Reagan on January 20th, 1981, my freedom was secured. My life at the mercy of an ideologically perverse Islamic Republic of Iran ended, and I was once again home with my wife, Barbara, and my two children, Alexander and Ariana. Above all, our reception at home and abroad was overwhelmingly positive, and we were truly unified from that time on. Now, as I look and think about the plight of the 101 hostages still being held by Hamas, Iran's surrogate, now for 421 days, and living in conditions that are profoundly more inhumane and degrading and despicable than what I went through. It is an urgent and catastrophic period of a humanitarian crisis that has no partisan issue. While I look to a coalition of brave, committed leaders to bring the hostages home in the next administration, I see that on the heels of the U.S. presidential election, we and the hostage families are turning to one man who might give and provide us with renewed hope, President-elect Donald Trump. With Trump now poised to return to the White House, I'm looking to the next president who has famously thought of himself and has done actions that have made him an ultimate deal maker. Perhaps we will see an accomplishment that the Biden administration was not able to secure, and that is the return of the American hostages. President Trump has always been a man who thinks of America first and cares about the American hostages and all the other hostages who are now being held in Gaza. I ask and I hope and I look forward to his recommitment to free all the hostages that are being held in Gaza today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barry. I would like to invite Onan and Orna Nautra to speak about their son, Omer Nautra, American citizen who is hostage in Gaza already 412 days.
We are Orna and Ronan Neutra. We're the parents of Omer Neutra. Omer was born in Manhattan, raised on Long Island, in New York, and has now endured 412 days in captivity in Hamas tunnels. He is now 23. He was taken at age 21, 1 week before his 22nd birthday. He has now marked 2 birthdays in captivity. Omer is a descendant of Holocaust survivors on both sides of our family. He was raised to love both the United States and Israel. After high school and during a gap year in Israel, he found a deep connection and love with the country and its people. And after careful thought, chose to join the IDF to do his share in protection of the only Jewish state. Omer was posted next to the border with Gaza together with his team. His mission was to protect the agricultural villages next to the border. He was the first responder to the border breach on October 7th, when he and his team were attacked and taken captive. In that moment, life as we knew it has stopped. We live with fear every single moment, knowing the mortal danger Omer is in. To us, human life is sacred, and yet for over 400 days, Omer has endured darkness and isolation, fed only despair by captors telling him no one is coming. Since that dark day in October last year, we have been on an excruciating worldwide mission advocating for our son's release. There are still 101 hostages waiting, citizens of over 20 different countries and 5 major religions. There are 7 American citizens. This dire humanitarian crisis cannot be a political issue. We all saw the grave conditions of the 6 hostages murdered in the beginning of September. As winter approaches for the second time, with all resources depleted, Omer and the others are out of time. When we were invited to speak at the Republican National Convention in July, we could have never imagined we would still be facing the same heartbreaking ordeal come Election Day. And yet, we are still here.
The most famous hostage crisis in America, before this one, began in 1979 and lasted for 444 days. We are nearing that point where 7 American hostages, including our beloved son, will have been held for longer. That dark milestone cannot be reached. Every day, the lives of 101 hostages being held in Gaza are in mortal danger. Iran's hostages were released just minutes after President Ronald Reagan was sworn in. We believe President-elect Donald Trump can have a Reagan moment of his own. Since Mr. Trump's election just 2 weeks ago, the Iranians have decided against a retaliatory strike on Israel, and officials in Qatar reportedly agreed to kick Hamas executives out of the capital, Doha. At the Republican convention, we listened to Mr. Trump threaten Hamas, quote, "We want our hostages back, and they better be back before I assume office, or you will be paying a very big price," end of quote. We can save Omer, and we can save dozens of others that are still alive. We must. We have a message for Mr. Trump. Time is of essence. We are counting on your leadership to bring our son Omer and the remaining of the hostages home. President Trump has demonstrated proven success leading complex international negotiations in the Middle East with the Abraham Accords. We urge President Trump to seize the moment. We are confident that your new administration can bring a fresh perspective and decisive action needed to bring our son and the hostages back and bring de-escalation to the whole Middle East. It's 412 days. It's urgent. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Shoshana Ran is a well-known scientist who pulled by founding an amazing NGO. She pulled millions of people from hunger in Africa. 7th of October, she was making hot chocolate milk for her granddaughter. After that, she was kidnapped with her daughter, with her 2 grandchildren. One is 8 years old and one is 3 years old. And also with her sister-in-law and her nephew. And her son-in-law was kidnapped too. Her husband was murdered, and her sister and her husband and the caregiver was murdered. She's from Kibbutz Be'eri. She stayed in captivity for 50 days by the hands of Hamas terrorists with the grandchildren. They kidnapped grandchildren, small kids. She was released by the last deal in November, and she's going to speak with us about what she knows and how must we have to work fast in order to release 101 hostages in Gaza.
Thank you, Inet. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed audience, I stand before you as a living proof that brave decisions and courageous leadership can save lives. Less than a year ago, after 50 brutal days as a hostage held by Hamas in Gaza, I was freed. Yet, as I stand before you today, my son-in-law, Tal Shoham, and 100 other hostages of more than 20 nationalities remain in captivity in Gaza. Their lives are in constant danger at the hands of terrorists who threaten not just our loved ones, but also the very foundation of human dignity. The nightmare that began on October 7th is still haunting us. On that fateful day, I lost so much: my beloved husband, Avshalom Haran, my sister, Lilach Kipnis, her husband, Tariq Kipnis, and many of my dear friends, all murdered by Hamas terrorists. My daughter, my little grandchildren, and I were taken hostage, and while we were fortunate enough to return, we bear the heavy duty and the burden of knowing that Tal and the rest of the hostages have now spent 412 days in captivity. Today, I am their voice. I speak for those who cannot speak, for the fathers who cannot hug their children, for the children who cry out for their mothers, for every hostage stripped of their freedom and dignity. Each passing day carries with it a profound urgency. Time is not simply a measure. It is a lifeline for those still hostage by these terrorists. Delaying action risks the lives of those we seek to save. A year has elapsed, a year marked by terror and heartbreak, a year filled with anticipation of justice. We have suffered immensely, but we must remember that so much can still be saved. My grandchildren, Yahel and Naveh, who are with me in Gaza, await their father's return with unwavering hope. They pray for him daily, envisioning the moment that they will hear his footsteps. They dream of the song they will play when he walks through the door. and they have already planned every detail of his joyful homecoming, where to hang the balloons, where to display the drawings they have made for him. Their innocent belief reminds us that it is not yet too late. Tal can still be saved. The hostages can still be saved. It is a matter of courageous decision-making. It is a matter of choosing morality and defending the essence of our humanity. Now is the moment we must seize. Today, we stand at a critical juncture in the ongoing efforts to secure the release of 101 hostages held in Gaza. We believe there is a historic opportunity ahead, one that reminds us of pivotal moments in American history when strong leadership changed the course of events. President-elect Trump has a unique opportunity to achieve extraordinary, not just for the hostages and the family, but for the whole region. We have witnessed President-elect Trump unprecedented achievements that were mentioned before. And we remember the Abraham Accords that demonstrated his unique ability to bring parties together and achieve what many thought impossible. In complex international negotiations, experience and personal relationship matter. President-elect Trump's exceptional deal-making abilities and understanding of the region position him uniquely to resolve this crisis. The Abraham Accords showed the world that seemingly impossible peace agreements can be achieved with the right leadership. This same approach and determination can be applied to the current hostage crisis. We express our full confidence that President-elect Trump's administration will bring the fresh perspective and decisive action needed to resolve this crisis. His proven negotiation skill and understanding of the region make him uniquely qualified to resolve this crisis and bring them home. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shoshan. We open now the floor for questions. I just want to mention, you see here on the screensaver, you see the faces of the people who are hostages in Gaza. Babies, toddler, young women, older people, young men, old men. All of them have the chance to come home, and we ask you and President Trump to make this effort to make it happen as soon as possible. So if you want to ask questions, please say where you're from, and I will give the floor to whoever you ask. Yes, Nathan, where are you from?
You had mentioned, all the speakers had mentioned the fact that Donald Trump is somehow uniquely positioned now to resolve this issue. My question is, first of all, what are the specifics of that? What plan does Trump have, do you think, that is different than what Biden has done? And is this any kind of critique of the Biden administration's dealing with the hostage issue?
Who won? Yeah, please, Nisa.
It's not a critique on any administration. We're just looking forward for, we are just hoping that we know that President Trump has a priority for hostages, and we're looking forward for him helping ending this crisis and getting the hostages back. We're not criticizing any administration at all.
Is there, just a follow-up, is there any different plan or different specific approach that you expect Trump to take?
Yes, President Trump, since in the previous term, as president, he had a strategy for hostages. He He did not make a swap. He did not pay ransom. He had his own strategy for releasing hostages, and it was successful in our opinion. And we hope that this will pay back now as he's getting back to office.
Hi, I'm Dan Raviv, a freelance writer on the Middle East. Dr. Haran, actually the question's for you because of where you were. To understand how possibly there could be a deal, say by Mr. Trump, what do the kidnappers apparently want? You were there. At first we thought maybe they mostly want their prisoners to be released from Israel. Is that something you were hearing? And what do you think they want now?
I don't think that Dr. Haran can answer this question. You never been in captivity, but Nizar can tell you that this is kind of question you just cannot answer as someone who is there. Like we don't become we cannot analyze it when we inside. Like I never been, but this is something I know from Nizar and Shoshan very well, working with them for almost a year.
So are you suggesting as this organization that sometimes we don't know what they want? Those who are holding hostages,
I
we
think
don't really know?
the decision maker, usually they have all the intel or what they need to know about what need to be done in order to make it happen. And we just hope they do it and the hostages can be released. And we sure there is efforts and there is will and there is ability. So there's no reason it's not going to happen.
I'm Gabby Deutsch. I'm a reporter with Jewish Insider. I walked in a little late today, so I'm sorry if this was already answered, but I heard several of you talking, as Natan said, about Trump, and I wonder if any of the family members in this room have met with him or spoken to him or people on his team since the election about your family members and these issues.
We spoke at the RNC. We heard President Trump. We heard the urgency in his voice to get the hostages back, his demand of Hamas to release the hostages. We know he cares. We are speaking to some of the members on the incoming administration, and we are very hopeful that both the incoming administration and the outgoing administration, as we met with President Biden last week, are going to work together now, seize the moment, not wait for the inauguration, but work on a plan to bring the hostages as soon as possible, because as we all said, we don't have time. The conditions in Gaza are horrible. We are afraid for our dear ones, and we urge both the incoming and the outgoing administrations to work together and not wait. Thank you.
Any other questions? Behind you, Sophia.
I'm Rami Al-Amin from the Middle East Broadcasting Network. My question is about how can President Trump deal with Netanyahu in this matter? Is it different from the dealing of Biden with Netanyahu? Could be different in that sense?
That's a very good question, but not for us. I think it's a good question to either Trump or Benjamin Netanyahu, the president and the prime minister, to answer.
But you are putting like hope on Trump. Is it because of the difference in the policies of Trump regarding the relation with the Israeli government?
We put our hope on Trump's, first because he's the elected president for the United States, and second because he have a record, a very good record, about good negotiation in the Middle East in many different aspects. So I think we have a good reason to feel we should have hope. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you so much for coming. If you want to have a one-on-one interview, you can come to me and I will set it. Oh, you have a question? Oh, okay. So we finish now, and You want to, if you all can stand here and they will take picture of you without me. Sorry, it took me a while to understand.
Give me the picture of Tal. What is the picture of Tal?
Tell us where is the best position with the podium. Yeah. Thank you so much.